Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and if you want to see the U.S. propaganda machine at work, look no further than CNBC. They've done a massive segment on China and China's massive debt problem here.
So people talked about this surprise rate cut that came from China. The surprise was it was so small.
Right. I think it's an acknowledgement that a rate cut probably wouldn't have helped that much. China has a massive debt problem. And when you have...
I have not seen the segment on the massive debt problem in the United States. The only place we can even see this talked about is in social media by independent influencers. But don't worry, everything's fine in the U.S. It's just China with a massive debt problem. I hedge my bets. Glint's my sponsor. I have a Glint account. I have gold in my Glint account so that I can spend it using my debit MasterCard. I also have physical gold. The link is in the top of the description if you want to check Glint out. Okay, moving along. Look what's going on with the BRICS. Here's the Chinese president walking down the stairs. They're having their BRICS meetings, I guess, for the next few days. Meanwhile, while this is going on, I saw a video of our Operation Choke Point 2.0 president falling asleep in Maui. But this is what they're doing, is all getting together while the U.S. is a joke. Now, this goes in the wild speculation file, but we love that file on this channel. Watch this. This is Ripple's XRP. Listen to what he says. This is a smart guy.
What's up, everybody? This is Ripples in Wales. Thought for the day. The BRICS nations are a big hot topic of the planet right now. We've talked about them in the previous videos and kind of the circumventing of the dollar system or the petrodollar system. But what we haven't discussed was the level playing field. And that was a term that was brandished around a lot in the 2018, 19,
yes, it was.
20 under Trump administration. And where it all began was during Trump's presidency. He formed very strategic bilateral connections with Russia, China, India, South Africa and Brazil, all of them. And he managed to put together a framework of nations, including America. The level playing field was a term for a better trade system that was more even without currency devaluations and trickery and chicanery to currencies. Mark Carney, reserve meetings, called for a global hegemonic currency that would need for the use of the peso. This is where it all began, the level playing field. It was Jackson Hole, and he was the banker, the Central Bank of England. He was the head man. Back in those days, in 19, Trump had already done a lot of work, and he held all these countries together before the pandemic occurred. And the interesting thought that I'm just going to postulate is that, and this is me speaking out and get the for a little bit now, I think the Americas and the Union, I think Americas are aligned with, and they were under Trump in 2019, but we're not looking at this is on this.
All right, it broke up a little bit there, but I think what he's getting at, and again, it's wild speculation. I think what he's getting at is that he believes, I think what he was saying is that he believes that ultimately the U.S. and the Europe will fold in with BRICS. I think that's what he's getting at. I think that's what he was saying. That does go in the All the World the Stage file, the red file. But I do want to show you this because he was referencing Mark Carney at Jackson Hole, and this is what he's talking about.
So what's the point?
Give us the thumbnail. Why can't the dollar be the global currency?
Wait.
Okay, the dollar is the global currency.
This is Mark Carney, who's the governor of the Bank of England, who is a Ripple partner. This is the same Mark Carney who's on the board of Stripe. Stripe, for those of you that don't know, was the first investor in Stellar. They hold 2% of the Stellar lumens, okay? And he's on the board.
You know that. The challenge is that the U.S. share of the global economy has been reducing. The dollar's share of payments, not just financial assets, but payments, a lot of payments between countries that have nothing to do with the U.S. are in dollars. And what happens in situations like we're in today, where the U.S. economy, to its credit, is relatively strong, is doing better, and the Fed has been doing the right thing, which is, they've adjusted policy, they tightened policy as it was strengthening. Now they're making, the Fed they're doing the right thing, but they have adjusted and policy is relatively strong. That means rest of world policy is tighter than it needs to be, and that feeds back on the U.S. economy in a way that ultimately slows this economy, and it leads to a substandard outcome. And in a world where you only have limited policy space, it's a dangerous place to be. And so the trade issues we're talking about are reinforced by the structure of the monetary system. Now, I mean, you've asked a big question, so just give me a second to. But now the issue is, you don't just jump to something new overnight. And what we want in a multipolar world, I think we'd agree that we've got European engine, we've got the Chinese engine, we've got the U.S. engine of this economy. Multipolar world, you need a multipolar currency. The question is, how do you get there? And I laid out some ideas of how you would get there.
Multipolar. Didn't somebody say the other day in a video, a multi-polar order or something like that, something to that effect? You need a current. What he's describing here is that you need a neutral bridge currency.
And it is more Governor, is that all of the pressure on the different in growth around the world would not fall on the dollar exchange rate. Yeah. It would be spread out if it was a global basket of currencies.
That sounds like an SDR basket.
It's a global basket of currencies. It's better for the system as a whole. It's better. It
sounds like a shared world reserve currency basket.
Is that equilibrium level of interest rates?
Right.
It gives central banks more policy, but it gives people who are watching greater returns on their savings.
Let me show you an article that, remember, you know how the BIS is in partnership with Ripple now? This is an article Mark Carney wrote for the BIS back in 2016, looks like June 2016. Ripple came about in 2012 or so. Mark Carney, enabling the fintech transformation, revolution, restoration, and reformation. Let's do a little search for Ripple. We'll read this right here. Fintech could play a role in helping to address a worrying decline in the provision of correspondent banking services which support cross-border payment and settlement. Half of emerging market and developing economy jurisdictions, 3/4 of large banks, and a majority of local and regional respondent banks recently reported a decline in such services. Know your customer utilities and potentially distributed ledger technologies may help to lower compliance costs. Man, who does that? Which major banks say have been a factor in their decisions to withdraw from the correspondent banking. And in time, fintech may broaden the pool of non-banks able to provide individuals and companies with viable alternatives. But for now, banks continue to act as gatekeepers to payment and settlement in central bank money. These PSPs include firms granted the status of either an e-money or a payment institution in the UK. Examples include from Stripe to Square, from PayPal to Ripple, from Apple Pay to Zap. Red file. Check this out. This was the tweet that David Schwartz did the day after the Ripple resolution, the ruling in the Ripple case. We're still figuring this out. We don't currently have ODL related sales with a US nexus, and not being able to do so is not really a huge deal. We can still do ODL in the US so long as XRP is never sourced from Ripple. And Mr. B says, David, based on your response to this question, would you expect to see the first financial institution use ODL from the US anytime soon? Thank you. This has not been answered yet. This person says NDA. Now, my understanding, based on everything I've seen, heard, and read, is that, like David Schwartz says here, ODL sales can happen all day long outside of the United States. But once that occurs and that XRP makes its way back into in other words, it can occur offshore, then that XRP can make its way back into the US, and then based on the judge's ruling, it can be used in ODL all day long, is the way I understand it. I could be wrong, but that's the way I understand it. Now check this out. Scoop, crypto exchange Coinbase, is buying a stake in stablecoin operator Circle, and USDC is being integrated with 6 more blockchains. And John Deaton had a very timely thread. You could never underestimate the damage the SEC's lawsuit has caused, not only against Ripple, but XRP. 3 years of adoption, that's what it caused. Just how long is 3 years in crypto years? People seem to forget how much Coinbase promoted XRP before the lawsuit. I personally doubled down on my XRP holdings after Coinbase listed XRP and promoted XRP's utility. That's what they were doing. They were actually, here it is right here. They were promoting sending and receiving XRP, which was extremely cheap for money transfers. That's what they were doing back then. He has an entire thread on all the things that were going on. He included in this conversation. MoneyGram. Remember, Ripple lost the MoneyGram deal just by coincidence. Ripple had the MoneyGram deal, lost the MoneyGram deal. Stellar picks up the MoneyGram deal, and who does USDC run on? Stellar. And I asked the question after I saw this, why SEC lawsuit against Ripple? Why not Consensus? Why not Ethereum? Why not Vitalik Buterin? Why not Joseph Lubin? Why not Stellar? Why not Jed McCaleb? Why not Tether? Why XRP? That's a question that somebody should be forced to answer. And then we've got this guy on crypto, the Bloomberg crypto, and he says this.
The main thing for me with the ETH futures ETF, it basically means that Ethereum won't be a security. I think that ship has sailed, and it's going to allow people to get a lot more exposure to ETH than they would have, the same way the people get exposure to Bitcoin through the futures ETF. So I think it's huge. I don't know how deep down sort of the coin market cap we can go as far as what's going to be considered a security or not. But I think for sure Ethereum, that ship has sailed, and Ethereum will be considered a commodity regulated by the CFTC moving forward.
Why has that ship sailed? All we have for Ethereum and Bitcoin is a Bill Hinman speech, which has been picked to pieces and is now worthless from the Ripple lawsuit. Okay? They don't know if it's Bill Hinman's opinion. They said it was Bill Hinman's opinion. Eventually it was the Division of Corporate Finance's opinion. They said it wasn't the SEC's opinion. We don't even know. I mean, so the speech is basically means nothing anymore. Okay? So without the speech, why has the ship sailed on, I mean, security, whether Ethereum is a security is based on the transactions that occurred. It's not Ethereum itself and being a security. It's looking at the transactions. Why is nobody looking at the transactions? Because the transactions that went on and have gone on and continue to go on with Ethereum, for instance, staking, Gary Gensler himself said that's a security if you're staking digital assets. They're doing that today. You can go look at the Consensus website. That is a security per Gary Gensler today. Why is nobody looking at any of these currencies and their security and the transactions? So what basically based on what this guy's saying is because Bill Hinman gave a speech which has holes all in it now, and now they want an Ethereum ETF, the ship has sailed because of those reasons. I don't know what the other reasons could be. It hasn't had a lawsuit. that would be well-deserved. I said, but Ripple has to spend $200 million and have their business tied up for almost 3 years when the Ethereum founders did far worse, including help disguise whale purchasers, which could be, I'm not saying it is, but it could be money laundering involved. You could have China, you could have Russia, you could have North Korea, you could have terrorists that were buying Ethereum in the ICO. Why does nobody want to know that? And they never even had to show who the disguised purchasers were, even though all of them had an email address. Multiple email addresses was Joseph Lubin's recommendation if you wanted to hide it. How are certain Ethereum transactions any less of a security than any digital asset on CoinMarketCap? None of these people can answer that. They can't answer that, and they don't answer that. And nobody puts a microphone in guys like this's face and makes him answer any of these questions because he can't. Here's another question. This is unbelievable per John Deaton. Sam Bankman-Fried's parents, both law professors at Stanford University, they're caught up in this owning a $16.4 million vacation home in the Bahamas and refusing to disclose how they paid for it. When asked by Reuters why the couple decided to buy a vacation home in the Bahamas and how it was paid for, whether in cash, with a mortgage, or by a third party such as FTX, a spokesperson for the professor said only that Bankman and Fried had been trying to return the property to FTX. Everywhere where there's shading, are you putting this together? Anywhere where there's shadiness and potential illegalities, the government pops up, having been meeting with the people behind the illegalities and the shadiness. And I don't think that's an accident. I think it's because it was intentional to prop it up and then to make it look like crypto is shady, when they're the ones involved in propping up the shadiness. I mean, it's unbelievable. Now, I haven't heard anything more on this, but it says if rumors are true and Robinhood lists XRP by the end of the year, then prepare for a massive uptrend. Robinhood is known for being very tedious when selecting which crypto to list. So if they are getting ready to list XRP, they must know something, as I've been saying since Q4, will melt a lot of faces. Well, let's see if we can spur it along. When XRP Robinhood, what, I don't even know if, let's see what there it is. When XRP listing. How about that? Let's get it going. Let's make the rumors true. All right, and finally, check this out. We've got a bank problem again. Listen, we're an economy problem.
And we do want to bring you some breaking news. This on Schwab to cut jobs, and as a result, it sees costs from those job cuts as high as $500 million. It also plans to close some corporate offices and sees most of the costs from those job cuts, again, about $500 million to be incurred in the second half of this year, Scarlett.
Yeah, this is all a plan to cut operating costs and primarily be done through.
No, I haven't heard any of this stuff, but it says, ever heard of Truist Bank before? I haven't. It has over $500 billion in assets and could be on the verge of failure, along with Charles Schwab and HSBC. Are we about to experience another Lehman moment in September? Not long to find out. Oopsie. I hope not. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe. Hit the like button. Tell your friends and family that all we ever wanted was a level playing field. Thanks for listening.